This is why it's so nice to not have makeup on.
That is so beautiful.
No.
What do you think of them?
They're ridiculous.
She never stops whining.
2/3 of Brits are calling for Harry and Meghan to be stripped of their HRH titles.
Following the legal ruling, Prince Harry ran to the media, shock, and participated in a sit-down interview with the BBC, claiming he does not see a world where he could bring Meghan and the kids back to the UK.
I think it's going to happen. I think what's going to happen because the threat of William taking the titles away. Yeah. But I think once the titles get stripped, I think Harry's...
2/3 of Brits are calling for Harry and Meghan to be stripped of their HRH titles.
Following the legal ruling, Prince Harry ran to the media, shock, and participated in a sit-down interview with the BBC, claiming he does not see a world where he could bring Meghan and the kids back to the UK.
I think it's going to happen. I think what's going to happen because the threat of William taking the titles away. Yeah. But I think once the titles get stripped, I think Harry's...
Now that I've been keeping for you.
I have full body chills right now.
This is why it's so nice to not have makeup on. Thank you.
Do interviews on your show. Do you do the Jamie Kern-Lima reactions? Yes. Oh my God, there's something wrong with her.
They want it both ways. These people were so mean to us and poor us, and we don't want all this attention.
40 minutes into the podcast, this little picture, quite a grainy picture, flashed up, which shows a basket of, homemade preserves with a card on it, HRH, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan.
I find it a little bit cringe to give a gift to a close friend and sign it Her Royal.
One tearless cry, one signature too far, one royal line now hanging by a thread. When Meghan Markle appeared on a podcast in April, no one expected it to trigger a constitutional crisis. But what followed wasn't just backlash. It was a full-blown royal reckoning. From media meltdowns to palace fury, secret signatures to family betrayals, this is more than a PR scandal. This could be the final nail in the Sussex's royal coffin. And it all started with a microphone, a camera, and no actual tears.
I have a letter from your husband and your kids. No one's ever seen this before.
So bad.
What is she
This is
doing?
really emotional. I have full body chills right now.
For them to be able to look
Telling
at
her how great she is.
Oh my
That's
God.
their whole existence.
She loved us so much.
Very selfish of you. Really.
Whoa, okay.
Meghan Markle has done a lot of things that made headlines. But what happened on April 28th may be her most controversial move yet. One podcast appearance, one dry cry, one signature she wasn't supposed to use, and now she's standing at the edge of a royal cliff, and this time there may be no way back. It began with a seemingly harmless invite to be a guest on the Jamie Kern-Lima show. Meghan, no stranger to the podcast world as a former host of Archetypes, stepped in as a guest for the first time. But what should have been a fresh, honest conversation turned into a cringe-filled performance. From the very start, the tone was off. The entire setup felt polished to a fault, lighting perfect, delivery too rehearsed. Meghan spoke of empowerment, vulnerability, and self-discovery. But to many viewers, it came off like a pre-written script, designed to trigger sympathy without offering sincerity. Then came the moment. Her voice cracked, her eyes squinted. She paused for effect. She looked down. But despite the dramatics, not a single tear dropped. The internet noticed and roasted. Megyn Kelly jumped on it fast, replaying the moment on her show with biting commentary. "It's a dry cry," she said bluntly, "a performance without emotion." Social media split like a cracked mirror.
Didn't put eye makeup on. And she also is pretending that she's crying. And we did a zero in, like we zoomed in just to see. There isn't a tear in sight. Dan, look at this. I invite the viewers to take a close-up look at this. Where's the tear? There's nothing there. Look, it's an actor's trick. She just keeps wiping and wiping and wiping, so we think she has a heart.
Fans defended Meghan, claiming she was being raw and vulnerable, but others weren't buying it. One viral post read, "She's treating this like a Disney Channel audition." Just days later, Meghan and Prince Harry were spotted at a Beyoncé concert. She was dancing, smiling, glowing. Harry? He looked utterly out of place, pale, nervous, disconnected. People began speculating that something wasn't quite right between them. Then came the podcast launch, Confessions of a Female Founder. It was supposed to be Meghan's big return to media. Instead, it quickly drew backlash. She spoke of motherhood as if she were the first woman to handle school drop-offs, comparing it to scaling Everest barefoot. But what really ignited the media firestorm was the gift basket. A beautiful, curated collection sent to the host, signed in elegant cursive, with compliments of Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. And that's where the real trouble started, because Meghan lost the right to use that HRH title when she and Harry stepped down from royal duties. It was a clear agreement. No HRH for business.
You know, look what we built. We've built a beautiful life and we have 2 healthy, beautiful children. And I always think about it like the end of Super Mario Brothers when you get to the final level. And what's the goal in Super Mario? They're like, slay the dragon, save the princess. I'm like, that's my husband.
Who is Harry rescuing her from? The family she abandoned before making him abandon?
No HRH for branding. The British press exploded. Piers Morgan called it a blatant breach. Tabloids questioned whether she thought the rules didn't apply to her. Even former palace aides chimed in, calling it a deliberate power move. As the criticism mounted, Meghan remained silent, but her father didn't. From the Philippines, Thomas Markle gave yet another interview, pleading to see his grandchildren before he died. He asked her to call him. She didn't. Meanwhile, Prince Harry had his own media nightmare brewing. In a BBC interview, he lashed out after losing his lawsuit over royal security. He declared he couldn't imagine his family returning to the UK, citing threats to their safety.
Promotion for Suits. She was joking with one of the photographers that she can cry on command. Left eye, go. And then you watch a tear fall down her face, and then she starts cackling because she's so proud of
it. Then came the darkest line yet. He compared himself to Princess Diana and implied the institution might want him dead. Royal insiders were stunned. The palace went into damage control. But legally, King Charles couldn't respond, not while Harry was actively suing the Home Office. The lawsuit centred around Harry's belief that proper procedures weren't followed when his royal protection was removed. But the High Court ruled against him, twice. The judgment was clear. Harry no longer qualified for taxpayer-funded security. In the UK, support for the Sussexes has plummeted. Polls show nearly 2/3 of Brits want them stripped of all titles. No more Duke, no more Duchess, and definitely no more HRH on podcast gift baskets. Back in California, Meghan posted a serene photo of Harry playing with their children in their Montecito garden. Smiling, sun-drenched, carefree. But royal insiders didn't miss the timing. It came just hours after Harry's explosive interview aired. It was a statement, one insider said. It wasn't about family, it was about optics. And then came the Thomas Markle Jr. bombshell. In a shocking interview, Meghan's half-brother predicted she would leave Harry if their titles were revoked. No more royal status, no more Harry, he said. Harsh words, but they echoed what many had long speculated. Reports emerged that Meghan still uses her HRH title in private, in letters, in emails, in podcast deals. It's not just about reclaiming.
It was her first podcast appearance ever as a guest, not a host. And from the jump, the tone was off. Everything about it felt too polished, too perfectly staged.
I don't have meetings in the morning, then I try to do school drop-off. They're at 2 different schools. So from 6:30 in the morning.
No one wants that, not the children. And also it sets this really unrealistic expectation, which Meghan is so good at doing for other parents.
She's allegedly wearing no makeup. Meanwhile, she's got like the perfect blowout. Like she's completely camera ready. And she also is...
Prince William, once hesitant, is now reportedly leading the charge to have their titles formally removed. He's done playing nice, said a royal aide. He sees this as a betrayal. Sources say William was especially furious about Harry's comment on King Charles's health. suggesting his father doesn't have long to live. To William, that wasn't just cruel, it was unforgivable. And this wasn't just about the podcast anymore. The HRH signature was a spark. But what followed turned the moment into a wildfire. Behind palace walls, the mood shifted from frustration to fury. Private meetings were held. Senior advisors reviewed precedent. Constitutional experts weighed in. Could the king legally revoke the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles? The answer, quietly but firmly, was yes. And William didn't stop there. Sources claim he personally reached out to senior courtiers demanding action. "We can't allow them to profit off the monarchy while tearing it down," he reportedly said. His tone was firm. His resolve, absolute. Behind the scenes, even long-time royal loyalists began to shift. At first, many in the palace had hoped to avoid escalation, but as Meghan continued to use her royal connections for brand leverage, and as Harry doubled down on grievances and lawsuits, that patience wore thin. The monarchy has always prided itself on the never complain, never explain ethos. But now that restraint was being tested like never before, and just when the drama seemed to peak, another twist dropped. Leaked emails showed Meghan allegedly referring to herself as HRH in communication with podcast sponsors and potential guests. The signature was not just a one-time mistake, it was a pattern. The palace response? Still silence. But the wheels were turning. Discussions turned into drafts. Advisors prepared formal statements. One insider claimed the paperwork to strip their titles had already been drawn up, just waiting for the king's signature. And Meghan? Publicly, she was smiling, posting quotes about empowerment, sharing photos of garden days and sunshine. But insiders whispered a different story. That behind closed doors, the mood in Montecito was tense. Because losing the titles isn't just about pride, it's about power, influence, book deals, brand contracts. Hollywood's fascination with royalty only goes so far without the crown. As if the situation needed more fuel, palace sources leaked that Queen Camilla was privately, deeply disturbed by the continued attacks, especially the Diana comparisons. A private family gathering reportedly ended in raised voices when William showed leaked footage of Meghan's behind-the-scenes podcast prep, where she allegedly rehearsed emotional pauses. The final straw? A bombshell dropped by The Times. Prince Harry allegedly contacted Netflix producers to ask whether they could revisit their docuseries to tone down attacks on the monarchy. Fearing the backlash might permanently close doors in both Hollywood and Britain. The move was seen by many in the palace as hypocritical. After all, the damage was done. Public trust had been eroded, family ties frayed, and the monarchy had become a spectacle in a media circus. And so here we are. The story that started with a podcast now spans lawsuits, global headlines, family breakdowns, and whispers of constitutional upheaval. The final act? Still unwritten. But one thing is clear. The fairy tale is no longer just fractured. It may be officially over.